Hello and welcome to the One About Podcast, the show where we discuss cats, and more cats each week. This week we're doing something very different as we're diving into a book. Well, sort of. A comic book. But a graphic novel, if you will. This is the one about Brian Lee O'Malley's Lost at Sea. I'm your host, Dean. I also go by EndlessCola in places around the internet, and I am joined this week by limoncello Jordan and pompolemus John. How's it going, guys?
All right.
Pompolemus.
I love it.
Hold on. You know what that is, Jordan? Do you know what that is?
What is it?
That is limoncello lacroix that I got just because you wouldn't shut the hell up about it.
Is this the first time that you're trying it?
LaCroix?
Yes, this is the first time I'm trying it, dude.
Oh my goodness! Okay, take a sip.
It smells fucking incredible. I'll give you that,
Dean. Okay, before you drink it, think vanilla Coke and tell me if I'm way off. Okay.
Vanilla Coke?
Just remember the taste of vanilla Coke, and then go ahead and taste this drink, and then let me know if I'm way off, because that's what I think of.
You know what limoncello is, right?
Just drink the damn drink, Dean.
All right.
Okay.
You're way off, but
What?
I will say,
wow.
I will say that
from
is
0 to 100
way
real
better
quick.
than any LaCroix I've ever had in my life. Like, way better.
Would you say it is the best flavor of sparkling water that's out there right now? Because I would be as bold.
Not counting the ones that are like artificially sweetened, I assume.
Well, yeah, of course, yes. Things that are absolutely artificially seasoned. Oh my god, I'm so turned around. Sweetened. If you read the label, I was just cooking and I'm thinking of seasonings
limoncello.
If you look at the ingredients list is real sketchy. Personally, the way they phrase it, just read it. The way it's phrased,
water naturally essenced. What the fuck does that mean?
Can I get a legal definition for naturally essenced, please? That is some.
That sounds
bullshit.
like some
with an asterisk, mind you.
Yeah, that sounds like some hippie like Western medicine bullshit that someone would sell you.
The worst part is the asterisk leads to like two small words that are so small that the print they put on the can makes it almost impossible to read what it says. Excellent. I think it says non-GMO, but like, what the?
That doesn't help.
Anyway, to answer your question, I think it might be the best flavor of non-sweetened sparkling water out there, but
it truly is incredible. And the reason
there's
why
a couple of good ones, though.
I do agree, yes. And limoncello so far is like, just from what I've read and just people talking about LaCroix and random stuff that I watch online, like that's usually universally like their favorite flavor, and it's blown up. But I bring up vanilla Coke because the vanilla taste that's in the limoncello, it just reminds me so much of the vanilla flavor that I remember from vanilla Coke. Now, mind you, it's been like 10 years since I've had vanilla Coke, but so maybe they've changed it, but it just, that's the first thing that I thought of, and I had like 3 other people tell me the same thing. So I just wanted to see if off base.
I mean, I guess if you're just talking about the vanilla hint that's in there, then that's accurate.
Yeah, and I'm not saying the whole thing tastes just like vanilla Coke. I'm saying, like, doesn't that vanilla flavor, whatever it is, however it's quote unquote naturally essenced, whatever that freaking means, however it's flavored, it's very similar to how Coke flavors their vanilla Cokes.
Yeah.
But it's very delicious, and I was very happy to get it. Also,
I'm
hibiscus,
super surprised.
Yes, I knew that you would be, and I was obviously just trolling in your stream, the hyping it up, because I love being a hype man. But I'm proud of you for actually getting it. Did you only buy one, or did you get a pack of them?
I didn't even know I could buy one. Otherwise, I would have done that. But no, I bought a little, what is it, 8 pack?
Okay.
So, well, I mean, no, I have like 7 more of them.
I'm sure you'll drink them now.
Yeah, no, like this isn't offensive like some sparkling waters that I've had. Every other LaCroix.
Oh wow! Because Kim loves, what is it, the raspberry one?
What?
It's not pompolemus.
lime,
pompolemus. What is pompolemus anyway? Is it like grapefruit?
It's not the
It's grapefruit.
I don't know. It's like
why
I'm
do they
about to look up
call it
LaCroix
that?
flavors and shit.
I'm sure there's a reason that's called pompolemus. We're one Google search away from knowing the answer to this.
It's probably like
not worth our time.
French.
Oh, it says here they made the word up. Wow. No, of course not. I can't even Google this because I can't even begin to spell pompolemus.
Oh my
Here, I'm
God.
just gonna fat finger it. Oh, thank you, Google. You nailed it. Okay.
French for
cran raspberry. It's cran raspberry.
What is
Kim's favorite LaCroix?
Okay. And yeah, so you said it was French for grapefruit?
Yeah.
How?
It's French for these nuts.
That would probably taste better.
Oh, Jesus.
Pompolemus? Jesus.
Yes.
It's not
Dude,
that
I wasn't
bad.
joking. I know you were joking, but I wasn't joking when I said the LaCroix is trash water. I'm stunned that this is better
as good as it is.
Actual sewage.
Wow.
Also, like, why on the LaCroix website do they have like directional arrows, but they look like they were drawn by a 2-year-old?
Bad HTML clip art.
I will need.
I think it's on purpose, dude. Like, if I had to guess, I would say this on purpose.
Oh, it's just artsy. What do you want?
It's artsy. That's what you're going with. That's what you're going with.
Wait, is their whole website just on the flavors page? I thought their whole website was just scrolling through their flavors. I didn't realize that wasn't on the homepage.
I would love that so much.
Look, this website sucks.
Bro, what do you think the over and under is for LaCroix surviving long term as a brand?
They will. I think sparkling water and stuff is definitely here to stay. It's found a resurgence.
Because it's been like dead for like 30 years.
Longer than that.
It's just like
sparkling
randomly.
Water, I mean, sparkling water was huge, and then we all found out that corn syrup was delicious, and then we all found out that we're dying. So now it's back. So I think it's here to stay. I think people will find creative ways to incorporate it. Hell, just look at how popular drinks like White Claw are. I mean, every company now has some kind of hard sparkling water.
I still can't get over the overnight popularity of White Claw and that bullshit.
Hey,
actually, that's kind of my point, though, man. Because like, it's so big right now that it seems like that bubble has got to pop at some point.
I mean, maybe people said that about malt liquors and like Old English, but people still pound that shit every year.
No, because that's
too much. Yeah, there's a consistent consumer base for that. There's no way that's going to die.
Well, there's a really specific kind of person who's just like mad into malt liquor, dude. Like, that's not
black people.
And my brother.
Hey, I mean, I've been known to. You can't buy 40s in Florida, but I've definitely pounded down my fair share of malt liquor. Yeah, they don't sell 40s here. It's illegal. Why? I don't know. I mean, you'd think like Florida's crazy enough. Like, what's 40s at? Like, what's stopping?
Florida's like this one state where I'm like, really? You guys are drawing the line in the sand somewhere?
Yeah, I know. I guess we'll just stick with bath salts, but whatever.
Jesus.
Like, that one time when we were trying to buy beer at like 3 a.m. or something, you're like, nah, they don't sell it. I was like, wait, what? What the fuck are you talking about?
Does California sell liquor after midnight?
Fuck yeah, they do.
Really? Like all night?
California has like, no fucks to give.
You can buy beer and liquor all night.
You know why, though? It's because California is super pro-business, so they're not going to pass a law that would hinder somebody's ability to make money.
Well, it's that with a combination of like how old your liquor license is. So depending on like how old your liquor license is, you have to stop selling at a certain point in time, like in like 7-Elevens and stuff like that. Like, but most of the places like around the block or up the street or liquor stores like that, their liquor license, like they're like we can sell until the cows.
I mean, as far as I'm aware, it's a state thing. You can't sell. I think it's 2 a.m. is when you have to, like, all businesses have to stop serving alcohol. That's when all the bars close. Like, things stay open later somehow, but usually everything kind of shuts down at 2 a.m. And then I've
See,
also
that's why I
been to
want to go to Europe.
places. I've been to Bible Belt places that just don't sell liquor on Sundays. Like, you can't buy liquor or beer or nothing on Sundays. I've been to those places too.
That's
Fuck
wild,
those
dude.
places.
No beer for football?
Yeah, I know.
That's why
Like,
you
you have to
stock up on
prep.
Saturday. Yep.
Yeah,
I
dude.
know.
Like,
Yeah,
you
gotta be
gotta prepare.
you gotta be responsible, man. I know.
What are they gonna do next? No hot wings on Sunday.
Hey, don't you put that evil.
I'm just saying, Chick-fil-A is close.
Chick-fil-A is closed, and I don't even care that Chick-fil-A closes on Sundays. Honestly, like,
Chick-fil-A is
I mean,
overhyped.
I don't eat there anyway, so it doesn't matter
Okay.
when they're closed to me.
Yeah, it's not as good as people like make it out to be. Like, the only thing good about Chick-fil-A is, like, I guess the customer service, but still, it's
Well,
not as good as people make it
I
out
think
to
Chick-fil-A has the best infrastructure. Like, they have an incredible drive-through. They have more than enough employees always. Like, there's always, like, it's like always 10 or 15 to 1 for the employee to customer ratio. So that means
Dude,
that you're constantly getting whatever you want as quickly as possible. So it's
dude, you
just
want to talk about a brand that's not going to sustain its current popularity? Chick-fil-A is it. Like, there's no way.
hey, I don't know.
Especially
Especially with
because especially when you
I don't know the
consider, like, if
numbers.
you're right and sparkling water just keeps its popularity level, the only way that's going to happen is if people become more and more and more health conscious. And you know what's going to happen to fried chicken when that happens?
Well,
I don't
so
know. Popeyes is gonna like stay alive until like the apocalypse. in my opinion.
Hell yeah, it is.
I mean, these things are never like sparkling water didn't ever go away. It was just super regional, and it was just a generational thing. Like, sparkling water was huge in the upper Northeast around the turn of the century, but it just kind of went away with more processed food, waters and stuff. Like, right when sparkling water came out, or around that same time, is also when, like, soda fountains started to become popular. And if you're putting a new population getting into to new carbonated beverages, if you're putting them up against a normal mineral water versus a Coca-Cola that's infused with cocaine, then yeah, the Coke's gonna win every time.
What would you rather have? This super sour water with bubbles in it, or this one that has cocaine in it? Bro, give me the Coca-Cola.
Like,
What the fuck?
Obviously,
it's like, you know what? Just take out the Coca-Cola, everything else, and just give me the cocaine. Like, that's fine. I'll give you the money for the Coke.
I mean, I think our food culture as a whole is transitioning to more healthy alternatives. I mean, John, you brought up fried chicken, but I mean, I have an air fryer. I air fry everything now, which completely removes the fat that's introduced with frying, and I get the same texture and relatively the same flavor. Of course, it's different, right? Deep frying is going to introduce a flavor unique onto itself because of the oil, but I mean, air frying is 9/10 of the way there usually, so I'll take that if I could just eat it and not feel terrible.
You know what's
Yeah.
it's funny you say that like our culture is changing to healthier alternatives. I don't know that that's true, man. Like, I definitely think that, like, there's more demand for healthy alternatives, but when your top two fast food chains in the US are McDonald's and Starbucks, and McDonald's has twice as much in sales that Starbucks has, it's a hard argument to make, my dude.
Yeah, but that argument makes the assumption that everyone that goes to McDonald's is getting quarter pounders. Like, they have healthy things there too that people do eat
Mm,
regularly.
There is
no.
not. I guarantee you, if I look at a breakdown of their sales, salads is not in the top 20 items, bro.
That yeah, and that wasn't my argument, but I mean, I say trending, right? Fast food is so convenient, but don't forget about Subway. You know, Subway's ubiquitous across America as well. That's super popular. That blew up. I believe at one point that was the number one. Like, there were more Subways in America than McDonald's. I don't know if that's still true, but
There's
I remember
That's
reading that.
It's
never true.
not. Subway,
That
like,
was never
hardcore
true.
crash, dude.
So the reason Subway crashed is because they had a fight with Quiznos, Jersey Mike's, and like a whole bunch of other sandwich offers. But I'll say this: there is a more diversified food culture, and that's due to supply and demand, as you guys are saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, of course, a lot of places will now have vegan options. They'll have vegetarian options. Like most places that would basically be like, oh, if you're asking for vegan shit, they'll kick your ass out or like they'll give you a dirty look. Like, no, there's more options available because of the demand and like the health conscientious of a lot of people out there. But fast food is just way too convenient and way too good, even though it's bad for you, to like really die out. Like probably in like I would say like if I throw like a name out there like Portland, maybe, but like even Portland like has like foodie is like foodie central, so like a lot of foodie shit is really not good for you. It's like really fatty and like just bad. But like they also have foodie shit that's like vegetarian, vegan barbecue, um, vegan barbecue food trucks and shit like that. It's just I will say it's more diversified than I could have ever imagined, and like that's a good thing because it's opening everybody up to new things and new tastes, new flavors. But like America as a whole is not going to get on the healthy train unless something major happens. And by major, I mean like a third of the population dies on one day, specifically from heart attacks, specifically tied to like diabetes or like fucking high cholesterol.
Dude, that's the next
You,
Stephen King book, bro.
I'm super glad that you brought up the whole vegetarian thing because this week we read a book about a vegetarian.
Oh yes, we did.
That was so heavy handed.
Yeah, there were two of them. There were two of them
But
in the
you're
Oh
story.
yeah, there
right.
was. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
extra cheese and mushrooms.
So Lost at Sea by Brian Lee O'Malley. So this all came about. I don't think I told you this, Jordan, but like the reason that we went with this week is because I was talking to John. I had something totally different in mind. But I was talking to John and he was like, "Oh yeah, I've never read anything by Brian Lee O'Malley like ever." And I was so upset by this that I was gonna jump into like Scott Pilgrim, but he wanted to start at the beginning. So here we are. And so my question to you guys is because you both read it for the first time. Um,
And I assume that you have read this before introducing it to us.
multiple times, yeah.
Okay, okay.
So what did you guys think? Wait, before you answer that, I want to read what Jordan sent to me a little bit ago. Let me see. Do I still have it? Yeah, yeah. So Jordan was like, "This was not what I thought it would be. We'll talk at 8."
Yeah. Yeah.
So all you did was send me the title and a way to read it, and it's called Lost at Sea. Can you fault me for
You're
thinking, oh, this is going to
expecting
be
some
some
ocean in here or some
some
shit like that?
survivalist
Yeah.
story, or something like that? No,
So
the
I'm guessing
farthest
you were both
away,
caught very, very much off guard.
significantly off guard.
Yes.
Well, with that in mind, what did you guys think?
For me myself, like it was it was different. It was like more of just like an onion layer retrospective peeling of a person's psyche. Like
Mm,
more specifically like during the teenage years of like how what we now see as like mundane experiences can like shape a person's way of thinking and like totally encompass their every thought and action. It was different. It was okay. Like I just wasn't expecting such a rough breakdown of someone's just mental faculties after something that I didn't see as like a huge a huge occurrence going down. You know what I mean?
mm. What about you, Jordan?
I actually loved it.
Yeah?
I absolutely loved this. And after reading it, it left me enamored. It really did. Like, I had a very strong emotional response reading this. And I was taken well off guard this morning because I woke up and I was alone in the house. I had some coffee. I sat down. I read it, and I was absolutely enamored with it. I really was. And like, I could talk for about 3 hours as to why I was so involved with this and why I was so taken aback. But I would say the only way I could describe it is I realized after reading this how much we change growing up,
Mhm.
because I had forgotten what it was like to think that way, like she did. Like, I had forgotten what it was like to experience those small things, to be lost in your head. Like her, like, this story only takes place over 2 or 3 days, but it feels like a lifetime. So
Yeah.
I was really, really happy with it. I actually loved it. I've read it twice. So I read it right
Yeah?
before. Yeah, yeah. I read it again because I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing some significant metaphor, like, oh, they were dead the whole time, idiot. Like, you missed that. Like,
The
like,
Sixth Sense and shit.
I wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing something so obvious, and it was like the whole dream with the cats and the no and the feeling of uneasiness, and basically the story of retracing her steps after her parents got divorced and then finding herself in these same locations as she's making her way back up to Vancouver. And I thought that I missed something huge, but really it was such an isolated story, it's such an isolated event that it was pretty awesome. I was not expecting this at all. I really loved it.
I'm glad to hear that, man. Like, I sort of expected you to give me more of John's answer. Uh
It really touched
because
me. Like, it honestly really did, because this was written in 2003, I think, right?
correct.
And 2003, I was 13, going on 14 years old, and I know people like this. Like, I know this time, I know the clothes, I know the mindsets, I know the angsty teeny type of writing that this was. Like, was this a web comic at first or something, or was this published online originally?
I don't think so.
Like, this just it felt so familiar to me, and after reading it, I had this crazy sense of nostalgia, and um I don't know, I was just brought back because, like, I just knew that group of people. Like, I knew that friend group. I had those friends. I had those interactions, and
Yeah.
it was really warming, but it was just crazy. Really, really crazy. I was very surprised that I liked it so much. I really was. I actually recommended it to my wife as well. I figured that she would like it too.
I think she would too. Um have you read any of his other stuff? Like Scott Pilgrim or
I've seen the movie Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and it's like, when I saw it, I didn't think much of it. I was like, oh, this is a wacky movie. This is kind of cool and different. But I mean, no, I hadn't read anything like this. Like, I'm not really a comic reader,
Mhm.
not because I choose not to be, but because getting into it without um without a not a really support group, but a friend group to guide you through is overwhelming, because there's just so much. You don't know where to start. You don't know what to do. So I didn't grow up with friends that were into comics, and I didn't really seek them out myself. So this whole experience is entirely new to me.
It's funny you say that because I've actually been sort of guiding John through that journey over the last year or so.
Yeah,
That's
Making
so many.
it's a lot.
like
It really
he's a
is.
he's an absolute maniac. Like I told him to read uh uh Invincible,
Invincible,
which
Walking Dead,
yeah, and The Walking Dead,
The
and he read
Boys.
them both in like a week. It's just not natural. Like, normal people don't do that. I expected it to take him a couple of months, and he's just like, okay, I'm done. What else you got?
Nah, dude. I like while I'm coding, like it's like okay, this code is running. Let's like I'm reading pages on the other screen.
Smart. Usually, like, I'll have a similar experience at work, except I'm watching YouTube videos. Probably should be doing something better, but that's what I'm doing while I'm waiting for something.
So let's see. Let me see if I can summarize this book really quick. I'm going to give it a shot, and you guys tell me how well you think I do.
Okay.
Essentially, this is the story of this girl, Raeleigh, who's from Canada, and she goes on a trip down to California under the guise of seeing her father, and in actuality to see a long distance boyfriend that she has. And on her way back home after leaving her boyfriend, she gets really upset because she finds this letter in her bag from him, and she misses her train, only to, by total happenstance, then get a call from these three kids that she knew from school who are also on a road trip back to Canada. Jumps in the car with them, and it's the story of, like you said, the 2-3 days of them on that trip, which they don't actually make it back, by the way. Like, it just kind of
Yeah,
ends at one
it
point.
There's
just
a lot of
ends like in the
things.
middle of it. Yeah,
There's a lot of things that they just don't bother to explain, but that you're kind of okay with.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Because it's really not about that. Like, it's like you were saying, it's really more about Raleigh's like state of mind and being a teenager back then, and how absolutely devastating it is to have one of those moments with your significant other in high school and like things like that. I guess she's in high school. Or she just
No, she
graduated.
just graduated. Yeah, she
she
goes
just
to.
graduated and he's in university.
Yeah,
That's
she's
right.
going to UC Berkeley. I think
Ooh,
UBC.
so fancy. Berkeley's got a really nice campus, by the way. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but it's a great campus.
I have not.
Not I.
I mean, I assume Jordan had never been there, but like,
Definitely not.
but no, I mean, like, I've driven through there before. It's a nice. I'm not smart enough to attend, that's for damn sure, but I can drive through it.
Don't sell yourself short.
Mm. I think it's more that my teachers for my entire childhood sold me short then, because when I
Jeez.
say I was gonna make it, like, there's no chance of hell.
God.
Anyway, would you say that that's more or less an accurate representation of the rough outline of the story?
that's
Yes.
the physical aspect
Yeah.
of the story. Yeah, that's physically what
Right,
happens.
right. So there's a lot of things that are a bit more intricate, which we can get into. Although I do want to outline a couple of things first. So the story revolves around Raeleigh, like I said, but she's also traveling alongside these other three students,
Hmm.
friends of hers, Stephanie Ferguson.
Acquaintances.
Acquaintances is a great way to put it,
Yeah,
actually. Yeah,
yeah.
that's probably the best way to put it. Stephanie Ferguson, Ian Taylor, and Dave Weldon. I will say right off the bat that, like, to me, and I don't know if you guys disagree with this, Ian is kind of like just there for most of the story.
He's the guy that everybody hangs around with because he has a car and a driver's license.
Exactly. He's just the guy, and he gets pissed off once because Dave asks when he'll be able to drive. It's like, you're not doing nothing. It's my car, dude.
Yeah. After
Yeah,
it broke down and shit.
he's the straight man, like
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
the, he's just seems like he's always seemingly on top of it. But then Stephanie tells us, that guy's fucked up too, like
Yeah.
don't let him fool you. She makes sure to she points it out specifically.
She never really explains what she means by that, though. We just kind of
No.
have to take her word for it.
Well, I think the reason why she doesn't need to explain that is more of an inherent assumption that all teenagers are fucked up. Like all
Right.
people are fucked up due to upbringing, experiences, and things of that nature. So like it's really easy to assume it's like, yeah, like they're not perfect. They've gone through some shit. Like they're human.
I actually think that that's like right on the nose. Like that's exactly the point is that he's trying to make in this story, that these four characters, like, yeah, Raleigh's super weird and messed up, but all three of, like, Stephanie acts like she's like cracked out on sugar 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
Dave is smoking and he's only like chain smoking
And he's like
all the time.
18, 19 or some shit.
Yeah, yeah. Like this dude has been smoking well before the age of majority. And Ian drives.
I mean, yeah, that definitely seemed like the overall moral that I felt like that final dialogue between Raleigh and Stephanie there, like at the playground at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty much the narrative, right? It's that, you know, you don't know, like, so you assume that you're so messed up. You assume you don't have a soul. You assume all of these things because you're just so isolated. But in reality, we're all the same. We all have our faults, and even Stephanie looked up to Raleigh as well, which surprised her.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was that's definitely one of the major morals in the story itself, And then she became a little more comfortable as they narrate, like at the end, pretty much the very end of the story. Like she enjoyed the rest of her trip. She seemed a little bit more in her element.
I thought it was really interesting where she's trying to explain that, like, let me see, what did she actually say? That her mother sold her soul to the devil for business success, which he then turned around and put into a cat and watched it run away.
Yeah.
And
It's like, oh, okay, makes sense.
she sold her two other sisters because she found that picture in
Mm-hmm.
the diner.
Right,
Which
which
that whole
go ahead.
I was gonna say that whole part threw me off. Like that's why I read it again, because I'm like, is there some huge like overarching thing that I'm missing here? But it wasn't as complicated as I was trying to make it out to be, I
Yeah.
thought I
Yeah.
thought there was some kind of ethereal story that I was missing, like something crazy. Like I was reading the background stores names and stuff, like to see if there was clues or something. Like I thought I was missing something so huge, but I found that I think I was just I was looking for something that really wasn't there. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't just letting myself experience the story. I was always waiting for
Yeah.
the twist, quote unquote.
Although if you do look at all the background stuff, the side things, there's a lot of cool stuff that he
Hmm.
puts into this book that you can spot. My favorite is actually right at the beginning, where Dave is like sitting on the curb or whatever having a smoke, and he offers her a cigarette, and on the pack it says smoking can totally kill you. So like
Oh yeah, I
that's a good
can.
joke.
Surgeon General warding. I'm looking at it right now, so he can totally kill you.
Yeah. I thought that was a really nice little in joke, but yeah, like I don't know. There's, as far as I know, and as far as I can tell, there's no like secret hidden message in the story at all. It just kind of is what it is, you know?
Yeah, it's in my opinion, it's not like the usual coming of age story. You see how this person develops over time and how they deal with whatever trauma or major event that befalls them. It's more of just like looking at teenagers in that time and just basically like looking at a retrospective look at yourselves or just in general people and just saying like we all go through shit, we all make mountain out of a molehill at this age, and we have people around us that can help us get through these times. Like these three acquaintances, again, acquaintances, like not real like close friends or anybody that you really hung out with. Like the only reason that they called her was because Ian saved her number after they did a report together, and by accident. And after hearing that she couldn't sleep because she was having a nightmare and she was seeing all these cats, they got up in the middle of the night and started roaming around the town catching cats to get her soul back. And like, that's some best friend, like, forever type shit. Like, I wouldn't do that for some random person that I just randomly know. It's like, oh, you can't sleep? Oh, that sucks for you. I'm gonna go to bed now. Like, but if it's like my best friend, I will do anything in my power to alleviate those concerns. And like going out in the middle of the night and randomly trying to catch cats, which in itself is a very hard task.
Yeah.
For someone,
and they get like
surprisingly
attacked
well.
and bitten.
Yep, exactly. Like cats don't fuck around, especially like you don't know if those are feral cats, house cats, whatever. And you're trying to catch them. And they're doing this to alleviate the concerns and of someone that they basically barely know. And that's pretty huge. And it's basically showing you the kindness of that can be offered to you from strangers or from people that you think will not understand the plight that you're going through. I think that's a really big message that's in this book.
I did think it was hilarious though, that one part where they catch 3 cats under the box and she's like, why don't you just like let them out? Are you fucking kidding me? You know how hard it was to catch 3 cats and put them in a box?
Exactly.
But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Like they ostensibly know each other, but like they really only met 2 days ago, and yet they're all out there looking for cats to try and find her soul. I'm like, I was reading that like, man, I can't even put myself in the mindset of a kid who would do that anymore. Like, if you woke me up at 3 a.m. because you wanted me to look for cats to find your soul, I'd be like, bro, go take your meds. I gotta sleep. Like, I can't.
Yeah, exactly. And like the worst part is it wasn't even suggested by Raeleigh to even like say, oh yeah, can you help me find these guys? No, they just took it upon themselves. Like, just, what was it? Stephanie woke everybody up and was like, we're going to find cats to find her soul. And they're like, okay, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
in the middle of sleep. Like, they didn't try and process what they were told. Didn't say, oh, you're fucking crazy, I'm not doing that shit. They just were like down from jump.
Yeah. Yeah, like those are the kind of friends that you really dream about having. Like,
Exactly.
they're ride or die no matter what stupid shit you come up with.
Mm-hmm.
She was lucky that they just accidentally called her and they were in the same town. Like, that was the craziest coincidence of the whole thing, is that they were there, like, states away, hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away. But it's never explained, and I'm okay with that. That's fine.
No, I mean, like, you don't really need that explanation, right? Like, you assume that conversation goes like, hey, I just saw your number, thought I'd give you a call. How's it going? We're just like driving back to Canada. We went down on a trip to Berkeley or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, me too. Wait, what? Oh my god, let me come get you.
Yeah, it was probably a like really awkward conversation and stuff like that. But again, that also speaks to the kindness of the troop in itself. Like, again, if I accidentally called someone and like, oh yeah, I'm actually in town, I was like, okay, that's great. Click.
Yeah.
Like it's not gonna go anywhere from there, especially if like I didn't mean to call that person.
I don't know. I kind of feel like if you randomly accidentally called somebody that you haven't seen like forever, you don't really know them super well, and you find out that they're like 100 feet away from you in a different country, I sort of feel like it's natural that conversation would conclude with like, hey, let's go grab a bite at Denny's or something, you know?
Nah, it like I would have to feel comfortable with that person. I'd have to feel like we'd have something in common, something to talk about. Like, we would have had to had a good interaction, or actually multiple good interactions, before that said accidental call that I'm just gonna be like, yeah, let's go hang out and stuff like that. Like, no, it's not gonna happen. That's just how I am.
Well, I mean, in fairness, we do find out in this book that like Stephanie is very aware of who Raeleigh is, and she had some admiration for her. So if you with that in mind, it's
Yeah,
not that
that makes total
unusual for her to
sense.
be like, "Hey, let's meet up."
Yeah, that makes total sense. And like also that's also something else that's talked about in this book or alluded to is that no matter what you think about yourself, everybody else has a different view of you. Like if you notice basically everybody in that car other than Ian kind of idolized Raeleigh and like basically said she was beautiful, she was super smart, that she was always really confident and sure of herself, like the way that she carried herself. Like, but from her inner monologue, you could tell like she was super unsure of everything that she was doing, and like other than like when she was with her boyfriend, and like she always had a lot of things in question about her mental state, like her dreams about what she was actually doing in California, all that stuff.
So I guess it's good as time as any to like talk about Raeleigh as a character because man, what a character she is. She's this like super socially awkward, shy, vegetarian, French speaking, depressed kid who's allergic to cats, but like they're weirdly attracted to her wherever she goes. She's still broken up that her best friend from childhood moved away to the other side of Canada. Well, she's living. I'm just gonna say the other side of Canada,
I mean,
and yeah, go
that
ahead.
that all happened in one summer. You remember her friend moved away and her parents got divorced and they
Hmm.
split all in that same summer. That's kind of when it all went downhill for her. And that's when she quote unquote lost her soul, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, at at a terrible time too. I think she said she was 11 when it
Yeah,
happened.
I think so. No, she would have been older than that because she says it's 4.5 years ago. So like
14, 15.
13.
It says it in the comic. It's obviously but I mean, what a terrible time for all of those things to happen because
Yeah,
just being a preteen already is terrible enough. Like, God forbid your entire world is thrown into the gutter like that. The last thing you need is some huge change, right?
yeah, yeah, and I mean it's rough. Like it, it clearly wasn't amicable. Like when she talks about her dad, she talks about how he was like a womanizer and cheated on her mom and this, that, and the other. And
On top of
there's that.
saying that her mother doesn't know what love is and all that stuff while he's with another woman.
Yeah, yeah, and there's that phone call where that happens between Raleigh and her mom, and she basically like the tone of her voice leads you to believe that she's super bitter about it, and
Yeah,
would throw them both off a bridge if she had the opportunity,
straight up just outright asked her, "Is he still with that woman?" I was like, "Oh, okay."
and then gets her name wrong, like implying that either she doesn't give enough of a shit to remember the name of the woman, or he's with another woman already, and the worst part about it is that she's caught in the middle of all of this. Like she just wants to be a teenager and all this, and she's caught between her mom and her dad having it out.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that she calls her dad, and I'm looking for the exact quote here. She coins him as I think she says that he is an emotional hobo.
Yeah.
So she's very just kind of nonchalant about her father, right? She's not like nowhere in this story does she attack or blame. She's just kind of so numb to it, right? like the scene where he's sitting with his nondescript girlfriend at that time. She says, my dad, his character arc is that he was here and then he left. He was a nice dad, but maybe not a great husband. There were infidelities. There have been other women. My mom, she's been single since, then. And then she says her poetic description is emotional hobo. And this has something to do with hitching metaphorical trains. So
Yeah.
she's just kind of so like she's obviously not getting any guidance or support or anything from her father. He's just kind of out for himself. Both parents seem really distant, right? Like she just that's part of the main dilemma here is that her mother sold her soul to the devil and her two sisters for success because now she has these socialite parties and everyone always talks about how nice her house is when they come over, and her
Well,
father just moves down to California and is just with nondescript women every other time that she sees him.
well, yeah, but like I don't think that it was more. I mean, yeah, it was implying that her father wasn't a good person, but like on the mother's side of things, I think that's more naturally like when people break up, especially like after investing so much time and effort into a relationship and then you have a child in the middle of it, like you usually let stuff fall through the cracks because at that point in time, it's either going to be all about the child or you have to get back on your feet and have to figure out how to live without this constant that you've always had in your life. And like I think the socialite parties and like being successful is a way of her mother making sense of her life and basically saying, okay, I'm successful. I don't need him. But there's always that thought in the back of your mind is like, oh, he's still with that woman. It's like, why didn't it work out between us? Like always that doubt. But I think that's again, he's pointing out something that's naturally occurring in basically everybody. Like there's going to be the one person that nearly everybody sees like that was the problem with the relationship, and then the other person who was trying to make sense of it all after the relationship was over. And in her mother's case, she made the best of her life, really successful, but it still is holding that yearning, that torch, because she's still worried about what this like basically deadbeat is doing, even though she's super successful. And that's again like it's something that you can't shake time and time again. It's something that shapes who you are going forward. Like I think even though I didn't see this as like a really straightforward flow of a story that I'm usually used to and like didn't expect something crazy, it was very deep in the way that it was brought forward and fleshed out. And like what was really crafty about it is like you didn't notice how deep it was because at the beginning you're just getting like random nonsensical like thoughts. Like you're literally peering into someone's psyche as they're thinking it.
It's very
Yeah,
stream of consciousness. Yeah.
yeah, very discombobulated. Like you're not getting a coherent story, and then like by the end, it's like, oh, this is like I think like this sometimes. Like I have these thoughts sometimes. Like wow, there was that one time where I was with this person, and like this is exactly how I felt, and that's what you get after reading this.
I will say also, as somebody who went through a similar experience, not the whole going to California for a significant other thing, but my my parents were divorced when I was actually about that age, it's like 9 or 10.
Mhm,
It is definitely something that's always like first like at the front of your mind. Like
mhm.
it's always something that comes up randomly in conversation. It's always super awkward. It's oppressive is a good way to put it. Like
Yeah.
you when you're living with that other parent, like neither of them really let it go,
Hmm.
and you, whether they mean to or not, you get caught in the middle of it. Like for me, living with my mom, like my dad was not really well put together and this, that, and the other. So it was just like listening to her talk shit about him all the time. And like as a kid, you can't really process that. Like you don't understand that she's mad because he's bad with money and this, that, whatever it is, he cheated or whatever. Like you see these two people that you idolize and they're at each other's throats, and you almost feel like you're in a tug of war because they both still love you
Hmm.
and you love them both, but they don't love each other, and it gets really hard to
Awkward.
deal with.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, once you're out of that situation, once you're past it and you're on your own, it still doesn't leave you. You still think about that when you're in relationships and when you're thinking about relationships and your relationships with, like, not even just significant others, but friends and acquaintances and people at the office, whatever it is. It really paints your worldview and how you interact with other people. And for me, sitting down and reading this book again, which I haven't read this book in, God, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years. Um, y- it was interesting for me to put myself back in that mindset that, like you said, Jordan, I'd forgotten what that's like, and I've learned to deal with the kind of oppressive, overhanging emotions that surround that. But going back and reading this book, I was like, yeah, that really is what it was like when that wound was still fresh and raw, and I had to deal with that tug of war on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, I was 5 when my parents got divorced, so I was young enough to not really know what's going on, but old enough to still remember the split, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't like it affected my sister way more. My sister is 6 years older than me, and the split affected her way more. I mean, she was a terrible teen, always acting out, constantly getting in trouble, and I was just doing my best, right? But I
Hmm.
mean, I can see that at that time she was 11 when they split. I mean, I can see how now, looking back at the time, I just thought she was crazy, right? I didn't know any better. I thought, oh, you're just a crazy teen. Cool. Sister's insane. But, you know, those types of events are absolutely traumatizing.
Hmm.
And it's it's weird to go back and read this. Not go back, but it's weird to read something like this right now because I have, like I said, forgotten what it was like to think this way because there are two parts of me that exist, right? When I read this story, there's a part of me, the 30-year-old, that knows why she's going through it, that understands the external pressures, that understands why she's so upset, and that knows, okay, yeah, you're getting big emotion, meeting someone online and finding your voice online on a forum, and then finding someone that you connect with and going down and finding your first love and having to leave them for whatever reason. It's only mentioned that she had to leave at a predetermined time. Um, but it's like, okay, I get it, and you'll get over it. There are better ways to handle it. Maybe you'll see them again. And then there's also that part that I had forgotten, which was when you're younger, you're so in the moment. Those stream of consciousness type of narrative that runs through your head, which is all over the place here. It's almost hard to read. I was reading sentences twice. I was reading the same line over and over again. I'm like, am I going insane? Like uh, she just said the same thing like 6 times in a row. Like I thought that was me. Like, oh, my dyslexia is really kicking in. Like, no, that's actually how he wrote it. I had forgotten what it was like to be so involved and so emotionally um, overpowered by these types of moments and stuff because I just don't think that way anymore. Right? I'm
Yeah.
very objective. I'm very 10,000 feet above everything that's happening. I can't afford to be so invested emotionally into something and to focus so much on an event like this or on another similar event like I used to when I was younger, right? Like everyone does when they're younger. So it was definitely eye opening for me. Like I felt something that I hadn't felt in a very long time, and it was a very weird feeling. It's almost one of those like, oh, you want to chase those feelings, but it was beautiful. Like I had a very like I can't express this enough, and I wish we would have recorded this right after I had read it this morning at like 10 a.m. because I was in a very different emotional state. I had gone through the day and I had to deal with craps, and I'm jaded and I'm back to my 30-year-old self. But um, like this, like I was really surprised on the emotional impact that this story provided to me. I was very, very impressed by it. I really was. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I relate to this character and this story so much. This is like maybe 3 details removed from my real life. like,
Yeah.
like obviously I didn't grow up in Canada, but um, I did grow up in California, and I met my wife online, and I came out to visit her, and then I had to go through that moment as a little bit older. I was like 21, I think. But that moment of like, okay, well now I have to go home because I was only here for a short visit, and that kind of like emotionally destructive moment where you have to like say goodbye and watch them drive away type of thing, you know? So it was powerful for me too to go back and read this because I knew what the story was, but it's there's something that's emotionally resonant in it when you actually sit down and read it. Like, I think that you're kind of experiencing that now, Jordan, where like you're one move removed from how you felt about it, right? But like when I read it yesterday, I was like 10 years removed from it, or
Hmm.
however long it's been since I read it. And so it was like experiencing it for the first time, like you did, all over again. And remembering how many things that are in this book that are so similar to things that I dealt with was it was really impactful.
Like
Really, really impactful.
I can't even relate to what's going on in the story. Like that's not what struck me. Like because the story itself is not a groundbreaking story. It's not an incredible narrative. It's not
Mhm.
told in a groundbreaking way. Um, it's told in a very unique and very deliberate way. But like nothing about this to me was like, oh my goodness, this is the greatest thing that's ever existed. But this was able to invoke an emotional response, and that's what stays with me right now is the emotional response that I received from putting myself in Raleigh's shoes. Even if only for 50 minutes that took me to read the actual novel itself. And then the impact that it had on me afterwards. Like it was very unexpected. It was very welcomed actually afterwards, but it was just, it's just the kind of thing that you don't realize is going to happen until afterwards. And honestly, starting to read it, I was like, oh my god, like just seems like some janky web comic that I've seen before back in the mid 2000s that was on some stupid Flash website that I've seen millions of times. Like just I don't know, like the first few pages I was really negative because I had seen this stuff. People links, people used to link this stuff to me all the time when I was younger, and I'd be like, okay, cool, nice fan comic or nice little, internet comic short or whatever. I was super jaded. I don't know why, but then that quickly broke down, and it just kind of took me along with it.
I think for me, um, when I first read it, it was the what is it, page 6? When she goes through that first bit of like exposition heavy dialogue that kind of tells you who she is as a character, where I was really like, oh, this is not that janky webcomic that I thought it was.
Yeah, and I thought it was going to be something. I don't know. I'm used to reading things that she says she doesn't have a soul. Like there's so many metaphors in this comic. It's really beautiful, but I was like, oh, are we gonna find some crazy twist at the end where, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, oh, they're all dead, or maybe they're all her and they're just like, this is all inside her head or something crazy. I don't know what I was expecting, and that's why I messaged you, and I had to make sure that I didn't read that there wasn't another chapter I had missed or anything. I asked you after I was done, hey, is it supposed to end this way? Like, is this it? Is it over?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. Because I thought I had missed something entirely. Like I'm just not used to reading something, a story so isolated. I'm really not used to that, because we're just, everything that I do now and all the media that I consume is so grandiose in its nature. It's saving an entire island from a horde of Mongols. It's watching 10 years of superhero movies up to a gigantic galactic climax. It's complaining about, Star Wars and space battles and stuff. I never read these intrapersonal things, and I haven't for a very, very long time. So it was quite eye opening.
So I feel like you and me could probably gush about this book for another couple hours, but I'm really interested to hear John's perspective as somebody who didn't love it like we did.
Well, it's basically goes back to what I said in the beginning. Like, it wasn't what I expected. I mean, it was very emotionally and what's the word I'm looking for? Like a state of mind. It was very deep in that sense. But it was just a very like pretty, in my opinion, like rudimentary story, especially like for a graphic novel. Because like again, the only titles that I've heard from this author were Scott Pilgrim, and like I've seen the movie, and I heard the graphic novel was better, so I was expecting, I don't know, something more like she was lost at sea in her mind, which I mean you could make the argument that she was, um, but in a more direct way, like after she entered that fugue state and those dreams were haunting her when she got to that hotel, like maybe they all like transversed into her mind and it's the sea of her sea of consciousness, something on along those lines. But I didn't say it was bad, it just wasn't exciting on the level that I was thinking of, but it was still well thought out and really well put together. Like if I saw this in live action, like this would probably be like just an episode on Dawson's Creek, to be honest with
That's hilarious.
It's not, I mean, it's not inaccurate, although Dawson's Creek never really did anything for me, so I don't know if it really
you. Don't make
works
me
out
pull
that way,
out the
but I know
James
what you mean.
Vanderbeek crying gif.
No, but I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, this isn't Lost at Sea, the anime. Like, this
Yeah,
is very much a uh, what's the word I'm looking for? It's an interpersonal look at like a teenage girl and her mind state during this traumatic time in her life. So there's certainly no action that goes on in here, unless you consider trying to wrangle some cats action, which in real life it
exactly.
probably would be action packed, but we don't even
Oh
really
my
see them
god.
catching the cats. Like they just kind of do. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, it's definitely not that. I could totally understand how if you went in with that expectation that you would be let down, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't. It was a letdown in the sense like of the adventure that I was going on, but it was more of like a coming of age story or movie, but just the middle part. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's exactly what it feels like. You're thrown into a middle of a story that should have started an entire chapter ago, right? Like like a whole nother one of
Mhm.
these novels ago is when it started.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really like you're reading chapter 2 or 3 of a book, and then you just don't have the other chapters. Like, there's no going back, there's no going forward. It's just that's all you got.
It's like, that's it. That's it.
I was convinced I had messed something up and I had not like read all of it or something. I was absolutely convinced that I had missed something because there's a huge plot point that just never gets explained also, which still eats away at me actually.
What's that?
What's in the letter?
Oh.
Yeah. That's
What was
something
the
that was like that's my reaction. Like when there was nothing, like they never told you what was in the letter.
I want to know. Yeah, like she was so distraught after leaving Stillman, she calls him.
Yeah.
And you know, they're at the train station. They say their goodbyes, and she's so upset after she finds this letter, doesn't even open it, but
Mm-hmm.
misses her train because of that.
Yeah.
And we never find out what's in the letter. Is the letter a goodbye letter? Is it him saying, I had a wonderful time with you, but this isn't going to work out. I don't think we're good for each other. Or is it just a beautiful letter that summarizes their experience that they had over the summer and maybe just starts a long distance relationship? They send letters back and forth. Like you just don't know what's in that letter, and it could fundamentally change the whole experience of the trip. Like it can make
Mm-hmm.
the trip into a nice, warm, loving memory, or it can make it into a terrible, traumatic letdown. Because the first time she actually opened up and felt normal with somebody, they just leave a letter dumping her and then left her
Yeah.
at a train station because they had to go to work. But they never explain it. You really don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for all we know, that could have been a proposal of marriage. Like, it's
It could have
just
been a lot,
Yep.
yeah.
we just don't know. And I think that's actually really powerful. The fact that he didn't feel the need to tell us what's in the letter, it it was a brave choice.
Well, I mean, throughout the whole story, he left a lot of things open ended and for our interpretation, which
Oh
I
yeah.
appreciate. Especially like in most coming of age stories, they like lay a lot, like basically all the details out for you, so you don't have to do any guesswork. So they're steering you in this emotional pathway that you're supposed to feel during this journey that you're watching this character go through.
For sure. Like I love that there's so many things. I love that it feels like the middle of the book that and you never get the ending or the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Um that it's just kind of a little self-contained snippet of this girl's life and that's it. That's all you get. It gets in, it tells you the story that it's trying to tell you and it gets out and that's it. There's nothing else.
Yeah. And I really love her character and how they portrayed her, how they wrote her inner monologue, because
Mhm.
it seems like her whole life, and they only briefly alluded to this because Stephanie's like, oh, you have such great posture, you always sit up straight, and she's like, oh, my mom always told me to sit up straight. I think that was kind of their way of saying, or his way of saying, the mother always expected her to act right and to be right and to be proper. Like I'm reading a lot into that line, but I believe that's where they were kind of insinuating it, to say that she's constantly trying to put on a front and act like nothing is wrong. And Stephanie brings this up another time towards the end of the book, when she's like, "Oh, I always thought you were so cool, you're so collected, yada yada." But her inner monologue is her struggling with being hyper objective. So she's always an outside observer to her own actions, and that's really what makes her struggle. She's simultaneously experiencing these things and also objectively analyzing them. So there's this incredible battle going on, and she's trying to convince herself how she's supposed to act, or how she's supposed to react to different events that happen to her. She's always questioning how she acts socially, You know, like she'll say something that everyone else finds funny, but then she immediately disparages herself, saying, "I always feel awkward. I always feel fake whenever I say something normal." I think is more or less what she says.
Yeah.
So I think it's written beautifully. I really loved that part. I really resonated with it too. But
It it reads to me like somebody writing themselves. In other words, like it feels to me like Raleigh is Brian Lee O'Malley, and he's just like projecting his life experiences into the story. I don't know if that's true, but that's kind of like the feeling that I get because it's such a real look into what it's like to be like that kind of a person that it's hard for me to believe that he made it up.
Yeah.
it's pretty on the nose. Yeah, it's very, very detailed. Like that stream of consciousness, that constant objective versus um, reactionary or just um, involvement type of mindset, right? Just being in the moment and just experiencing it versus analyzing it while it's happening and judging yourself and others around you or trying to be prescriptive in the way that you react to things. But I mean, it would make you think that he had to have brought it from somewhere personal. It's too on the nose. It's too right, you know, for him just to think, oh, I think this is how someone in this position would act. It's got to
Right.
be it's got to be taken from somewhere personal.
Yeah, I mean, unless all Canadians are like this, so he's just like, well, that's what it's like to be Canadian, eh?
It's just like a false front that they're always so happy and nice to everybody.
The Canadian niceness is all a myth. They're just like all socially awkward and weird.
Socially awkward and like depressed and miserable and shit.
So let me ask you guys this. If you had to say that you were one of these four characters, who do you think that you relate to the most?
Mm, I guess. I mean, I can see myself in all four of them, but
Hmm.
you know, because I like to be weird and say dumb stuff and you know be outgoing like Stephanie is, and I also like to be headstrong and try and take charge and um like uh like Dave um try and be um silent observer or you know like the intellectual like Ian, and sometimes I'm also the quiet introspective one like Raeleigh. So I don't know. I guess if I had to pick someone, it would probably be Ian.
Mm.
Maybe, but that's always hard. I mean, I've read it twice and I haven't really thought about this, but I guess him more times than not.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because like I would say that at least at this point you're definitely Ian, dude. like like without question you're the pragmatic one.
I, yeah, I mean, I I think that lands pretty true. Yeah. What about you?
Me, I that's easy. Like I'm Raleigh 100%. That's that character is me at 18 and not a whole lot has changed in the years since then. Like I've gotten more comfortable in my own skin, but
hmm
I just so deeply relate to her as a character that like there's just no way that could say that I'm any of the other three. John.
So like thinking about it, honestly, it'd probably be more akin to Stephanie.
That's the
Um,
right answer.
yeah, because like literally, like even though like I'm very shy when I first meet people and not very out there, like once I get to know them and like flesh out like what they're about, like I'm fucking crazy, like doing random shit, trying to make sure like they're okay and that they're happy. Like if if Raleigh was one of my friends and I was in that position, I would do exactly what Stephanie did. Like either I would wake everybody up and like say we're going to do this, or I'd just be like, fuck it, we're gonna go find some cats and like we're gonna go get your soul. I understand that. I hide my insecurities and my shyness behind, just being like out there and just seeming like I don't really care about a lot. Because wearing your emotions on your sleeve, depending on who you show that to, can be detrimental.
For sure.
So.
Sounds like we need a Dave.
Do I know a Dave? I think I know a couple Daves, actually.
You know what's funny? Like in my notes, I describe Dave as the dude from The Big Lebowski. Like
basically, he's just super nonchalant and like chill. Like I have aspects of Dave, but I'm not like that all the time.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely have aspects of Dave. I know that.
But
for sure, like
the Dave is
I
strong
can
with this
relate to. Yeah, I can relate to all four of them in some way.
Yeah, I think that's natural. No one's a one-trick pony. No one's one thing or another.
Yeah, I mean, like the only one of the four that we get a real look into who they actually are as a character is Raeleigh. The other three really are just kind of like one-note characters because that's all we have time to see.
Yeah,
I guess Stephanie's a little bit more fleshed out.
Yeah, she
definitely
has,
Ian and Dave.
Yeah, because Ian and Dave are like basically like along for the ride, and Stephanie is, I guess, more of the shoulder that you cry on, and like showing Raeleigh that it's not always as bad as it seems, and you have people that you can talk to, and like you need to see yourself in a different light. It's basically like I don't know if you have this with like your significant others, but like when they're down on themselves and you're like, do you not understand like the way I see you? Like you're the most amazing person that I know. Like you're just naming off all these good qualities and they don't see that in themselves. And I think that's inherent in a lot of people, especially like when they're with people that they idolize, their crushes, their significant others, even their children. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like for me personally, I go with the continue to insult them and make them feel like crap when they're upset approach, and it seems to work out pretty good.
Jesus Christ.
The super tough love.
I go with the
so
Full Metal
yeah,
Jacket approach.
You're totally right.
I feel so fat. It's because you're huge.
Jesus Christ.
Really digging that knife in.
I don't have to dig in the knife. I am the knife.
I am the knife.
No, yeah, like for sure. But I will say that if I'm Raeleigh and you're Stephanie, like you are the shoulder I cry on, John.
Oh,
I'm glad I could be there.
I need some 90s. I need some 90s sitcom. Some like this was a touching moment you just experienced kind of music.
Oh no, God, don't worry about it. I'm blocking him on all forms of communication. We'll never speak again, much less speak of this.
Mm-hmm. That's a very Raeleigh thing to do.
It kind of is, isn't it?
It is.
It's like, I don't know how to deal with this. I'm going to block you so I never have to see you again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so do you guys have anything else you want to notate on this book?
No. I mean, I'm just very happy with it. Does he have other stuff like this?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, like the book of Scott Pilgrim deals with these kinds of topics a lot. Like that's the center of what the comics are actually about. And then his follow-up to Scott Pilgrim was called Seconds, and that's very much like this, although Seconds deals with somebody who is a bit older. They're like almost 30, I think.
Okay. I will probably be looking into more of it then, because I was very impressed with this one.
Yeah, I mean they're all worth reading. Oh, he also has that one Snot Girl, which is ongoing, I think. I don't think that one's finished. But that one's also very much like this. It's just kind of his style. That one's actually a lot really what it sounds like. Like it's about a girl who's just got a snotty nose all the time. But it's the
Oh,
same kind of yeah, same kind of character exploration piece.
all right then.
But yeah, so let me ask you this, John. After you wanted to go back to the beginning and
Hmm.
read Lost at Sea first, so now having read it, are you more or less excited to continue on in Scott Pilgrim?
I'm more excited because if this is going to be his beginning work where it's more of an introspective look on a person's psyche and he could do it so nonchalantly but for it to have so much depth in such a short story, I'm excited for what he would do with something that has more layers and more chaotic aspects. So I'm actually very excited.
Not to mention is much much longer.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because
But you know
I
how
don't
I
know
am
if
with that kind of stuff.
I don't know if either of you know this, but Scott Pilgrim is 6 volumes long, so it's considerably longer than this one.
You've read all of them,
No,
right?
it's only
Yes, I have
In
only
your
six
opinion,
multiple times.
volumes. Only 6 volumes.
Yeah,
in
I mean, honestly, that's not that much for manga.
in your opinion, how well did the movie do?
Not super great
Really?
because, like, the movie adapts the more fantastical aspects of the book, but it leaves out all of this kind of stuff, which is, like I said, the crux of the books. Like, it's very much a look at Scott Pilgrim as a person, and the fantastical aspects are kind of like a metaphor for what it's like to be that age,
Okay.
which I think, for me at least, was kind of lost when you watch the movie. The movie just kind of seems like random chaos, and it's fun. Like, I don't dislike the movie, but like comparing the two is apples and oranges. They're just like different things.
All right. Maybe I'll dip into Scott Pilgrim as well. I don't know. I really don't know where I'll go from here, to be honest. I don't have a set path because you've been guiding, as you said, getting John, into certain different comics. Like me on the outside looking in, it's like going to somebody who has never seen a movie in their life and going, "Hey, I want to get into movies. What should I do?" And then it's like, "Well, what have you seen?" Like, "Oh, I've never seen a movie. I just want to start watching movies. Like, what should I watch?" And you're like, where do you even begin, right? Because there's just as many. I mean, comics have been around for longer, I think, than motion pictures. So it's got just as storied past, just as much of a storied past, and as many, if not more, options available. So it's overwhelming, definitely.
Well, I would say this, like, if you avoid superheroes, reading comics is not that hard. Like, you can just pick up Lost at Sea or um
I would have
whatever and just
never,
read it.
I would have never picked this up, ever.
No, I understand that.
Nothing about this would have ever made me pick it up. Like even like the cover, looking at the official colored cover of the book, I would have never chosen it. The art style, if I would have flipped through it and just read the and saw the art and read a little bit of it, no, I would have put this down immediately. So I'm happy that you forced me to read this week and
Forced you,
told me
forced
that if
you,
I
he
didn't read
says.
it, then that there'd be repercussions. So I'm happy. Thank you, Senpai, for making me read this. But
10 out of
Senpai,
10 would have
notice
a gun
me.
put to my head again.
yeah, would be
Notice me,
held.
Senpai.
Yeah, would be held above the fire to do this again. But
Uh,
I don't
that
know.
actually reminds me, I was going to ask you guys, which version did you read?
Both.
You read
Yeah,
both?
same.
I the
Oh,
co-
Yeah.
You're talking about like the colored and the non-colored ones.
yeah.
I started with the black and white one, and then
Okay.
I thought that was two separate volumes. I'm like, okay, I'm done with the first volume. Now we're going to go on to the next one. I'm like, wait, this is the same thing, but it's colored.
Oh, okay.
So
Same.
I
Same.
I just read them all. I just read both of them, and honestly, I prefer the black and white over
So
the
do I.
colored.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to ask you is like whether or not you had a preference one way or the other, but I do kind of prefer the black and white. I mean, part of that is because it is a manga, like it's not Japanese made, it's Canadian, but it's still manga. It's manga in style, it's manga in presentation for the most part. Um,
Mhm.
They only ever
and that
pick,
just feels like it should be black and white to me.
yeah, and they only ever pick, and I would love to know why, if there was some specific reason why there's just that tone of red, kind of pinkish red, like a salmon color, and then just the navy blue in place of the black. Right? I would like to know why they
Yeah,
chose those two colors because that's all it is. It's just that and white, and the text is. I think the text is black, but it's so close to the dark blue you can hardly tell. Um, I don't think there's any other color besides those three, though.
yeah, no, there's not, and that's a good question. I'm not sure why. The only thing I can tell you is that the original paperback version, that's what the cover is like. So they just applied that to the interior artwork as well, but I couldn't tell you why. I don't know if that was like an artistic choice
Yeah,
that Brian Lee O'Malley made or
it's done
yeah,
really
I don't
well.
know.
It really is. Um, Totally random. Like talking about colored graphic novels. I'm still reading the original Mobile Suit Gundam when they
Mm,
re-released the mangas, like the original artist of the original Mobile Suit Gundam anime that came out late 70s 80s came back in the mid 2000s and redrew the entire story. So there's 11 volumes, and I know we've talked about this before, but they're I think they're masterpieces. You know, not only is the story incredible, but the parts like the beginning of every chapter and then also major events in the story are watercolored and they're just gorgeous. It's the most beautiful manga I've ever read. Really, really impressive.
yeah, I remember I read the first one of those, I think, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, it's definitely worth a read. They're long though. It's a lot. It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they're dense
Yeah,
for
they
sure.
really are. But it's good though. It's keep me busy. Keep me reading them. I'm probably gonna reread them too after I'm done,
Good.
just 'cause I love that story.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up this week, guys?
Read this.
Um,
If if you're
yeah.
on the if you're just listening to this and you haven't read this already, just read it. You can find it. It's a
let,
quick
let
read.
me let me help you out here, Jordan. From the back of the paperback version, Raeleigh is 18 years old. She has no idea what she's doing. If you've ever been 18 or confused or both, maybe you should read this book.
Thank you. That's perfect.
You're welcome.
Perfecto.
I've read it myself. Um, well, I think I can't really add to that. I mean, I really do think that it's a nice little read. It doesn't take super long to get through it. I think I read it in about a half an hour, and it's really an impactful little story. I really love Raleigh. I can really relate to that character. I love Stephanie and how infectiously like positive and scatterbrained she can be, and how like that one scene in the diner where she gets mad because she said dude and like
Yeah,
she
at herself.
swears and then looks at the waitress like I didn't say that. And then she just starts swearing like a sailor as soon as she walks away.
Exactly.
um and then like Dave, my man Dave, who just like, well, that's just like your opinion, man. Like, just doesn't give a shit about anything.
Big
I really
Lebowski
enjoy all these
personified.
characters. Yeah, man, for sure. Um, even Ian, who really doesn't do much of anything, there's just something really relatable about him.
I'm just scrolling through the comic again and I read something that's so Dave. It's the conversation when they're talking about like where Dave asks, he's like, blondes really actually do have more fun, right? And it's kind of an awkward conversation. And then they bring up redheads, and he's like, I don't know, I could be coerced into dating the right redhead. And then Ian's like, like Wendy's, and he's like, that chick Wendy, I do her.
Typical Dave.
Oh, sorry, Ian says that. Sorry, that's surprising.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, I
Ian.
misread the
Yes,
I
Ian
misread the bubble. Ian said that, and then Dave's like, oh yeah, and then Ian's like, I could totally go for some Wendy's, and then they don't. They end up going to some random place.
Yeah, he's like, you don't even like Wendy's.
That's a surprising thing for Ian to say. I adore her.
It's like a shocking bit of characterization.
It really is. Yeah, it's out of left field.
I just love how like they get there and he's like, this isn't Wendy's. Like, you don't even like Wendy's. Like, yeah, but I fucking love this place. Yeah, dude, like Ian and Dave, their back and forth is phenomenal. Like I could read a whole book just about those two guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like those two guys are like, go ahead.
No, they like just most of the time when like they ask like where are we? It's like, oh yeah, we're somewhere like in Southern California. It's like, what? Where are we exactly? I don't know.
Yeah, he's like Ian's or Dave's supposed to be the navigator. It's like I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, like isn't that still in Northern California? I don't know. We're somewhere.
yeah, it's like, yeah, we're in San Francisco. Isn't that also in Northern California? I don't know. Sure.
If you say so.
Yeah, it's like, oh, whatever, man. We'll get there. Canada's
not looking
big.
at a map at all over here.
Can't miss it. Yeah.
And yet at one point they're like, what direction are we heading? South.
Yeah, because they had the compass.
More like southeast. Southwest-ish.
South.
Yeah, that kind of stuff's not happening nowadays with GPS and stuff. I would love to go on a road trip like that. I love road trips myself. And I would love to go on one where you got a map, you got a compass, and you figure it out,
You know what I'd love to do? I'd love to go on a road trip without a map, compass, or phone. You just drive.
All right. I'm down.
Where you end up.
Pick me up. Let's do this.
No.
We'll make our way to John. John, we'll be there in a week.
Way too many times.
We just need to head west.
Way too many times.
Well, I mean, you famously got lost on a scheduled flight. So, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I need directions.
But don't worry, man. I'll drive.
We'll just follow the sun.
All right, that's fine with me.
We'll keep driving till we hit beach, and then be like, all right, John's somewhere in this state.
You know what we should do? Just fly out to California, kidnap
doors.
John, and leave.
Let's do it. Yeah. I can't
leave
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Leave a ransom note behind with no contact information.
Fake bloody thumb.
Your woman's just like, wait, this is a white person's thumb, though.
It's obviously fake.
We couldn't find a black one at the Halloween store.
This barbecue sauce they put on, it's delicious, though. Oh my god, dude. Well, if neither of you two gentlemen have anything else you want to say, I guess we can just kind of wrap her up. All right. Well, before we go, if you enjoyed this and you're on YouTube, be sure to drop us a like and subscribe. It really helps us out. If you're enjoying us on your favorite podcast service, drop us a review. And don't forget to come chat with us in the Discord. As always, have fun out there, guys.